The Brandon Peters Show may contain explicit language and detailed plot points. For more information on the show, stay tuned to the end of the episode. And if you haven't fast-forwarded through this part yet, here's Brandon.
Thank you for joining again for another excellent week on The Brandon Peters Show. Today we'll feature a discussion on the 1979 Academy Award-winning film Breaking Away. But first, joining me today, the CEO of PopCon, the pop culture convention, which has been referenced on this show plenty, Carl Doninger.
How are we doing?
Hello, not bad, not bad. Thank you for coming. This is the first time, you've been on one of my shows, I think.
It is.
You did video for me, but
for as many years as we've known each other, that is kind of interesting.
Yeah,
I've been on a lot of podcasts, but this is a new one.
Yeah, we've talked podcasts. We do podcast indie meetups and stuff, and I've never.
We've had full on podcast episode conversations. We just weren't recording it.
No, we literally have stuff that should have been recorded, should have been put out in the ether, but alas, you have to. I guess that's the enjoyment of us live and in person. Something you get. But let's just start with the top. PopCon 2021 is a go this year. It coming out this summer.
Yeah, July 9th, 10th, and 11th. Mm-hmm. And the film festival on the 8th even.
Yeah, that's exciting. And that was supposed to be last year, was supposed to be the debut of the film festival, but now it's this year, which you still had it, but now with the in-person.
Correct. This is technically our second film festival because last year actually went very well, but we just had to do it all virtually. We had to do it online, and the filmmakers loved it. They loved that we still had it.
I've had a couple of filmmakers on here, and they've said the virtual thing, while they want to be in a crowd with people, the virtual thing has allowed them access and the ability to be a presence at other film festivals, because living on the West Coast, going to the East Coast, isn't the easiest for an independent filmmaker to attend a festival their film's in. Well, there were benefits of that.
I should have counted. We've got 20 some odd countries represented.
Wow.
In our film festival this year. It's insane. We've got a Russian filmmaker flying in, and we will even have a Japanese filmmaker flying in if they allow him to fly in.
Wow, that's pretty intense.
It's what George and Audrey have done with the film festival, pretty much from scratch last year. This year, we've more than doubled the number of films that were submitted from last year to this year. The variety of countries, obviously, I think it tripled.
Yeah,
we didn't do badly last year on the number of countries. I was pretty proud of 9, but I think we're well into the 20s this year. Yeah,
and George and Audrey, they are pros. They do hell. It's almost. She's been on here. She's been a frequent presence on here, and it's almost like selfless work what they're doing, because they're doing everything for these other filmmakers, and it's.
Yes. I'm just going to read the list real quick. So here we go.
All right.
U.S. obviously, UK, Canada, France, Japan, Germany, Italy, Korea, Russia, Argentina, Australia, Spain, Greece, Hungary, India, Ireland, Israel, New Zealand, South Africa, Sweden, and Brazil.
Wow.
All over the planet.
That's awesome.
It really is.
That is so great. And you're making yourself a spot on the map for that circuit of independent films and all sorts of genre. I know George and Audrey have specialized in doing horror stuff in the past, but this is everything under the blanket.
It did open up their ability to just ask for anything. Yes.
Yeah.
Indeed. Mm-hmm. We did. There's definitely horror represented. I think because of their connections, that is our biggest category still, is horror. But we've got sci-fis and thrillers, documentaries, anime. We've got 7 Indiana short films and 3 Indiana feature films. So 10 of our films are from Indiana, which is awesome. Action, fantasy, gaming, sports, thrillers. I don't know what I missed, but there's just a very good wide variety of content.
How many of them will be showing or plan to show there?
That I can't answer.
Okay.
Because I'm not part of the selection committee and they are not done. So
Gotcha.
the submission.
I asked about that a couple months ago to Audrey, and she wasn't able to answer it either. This is my update. Still no answer.
So submissions were completed 2 days ago. So now they're going to be going through and judging the films and picking and choosing who gets selected and who doesn't. Yeah.
Excellent. And in addition to the film festival, which is still rather a new feature, are there any other new kind of features or aspects of the convention that are going to happen?
No, you shouldn't be doing new in 2021.
Right, true.
We've got all the pieces, parts, except one that I can think of. So we've still got, we're going to have the virtual reality and the esports and the board gaming, laser tag, and the podcast table and podcast awards, podcast stage. All the pieces, parts, except we're not going to have escape rooms. We're just limited on size. So it wasn't really a COVID concern so much as we're just not able to spread out as much on the old side of the convention center as we are on the new side of the convention center.
Gotcha. And with the COVID stuff, that is going to be handled differently. There's going to be, protocols in place and stuff like that.
Yep. You're going to have to answer all the prerequisite questions that you do in any gathering where you have to confirm that you aren't currently sick, haven't been around somebody with COVID, because those are just questions in Indiana you have to ask. And then as long as that's all in an affirmative, you'll go in, you'll get your wristband through our registration, and we'll have currently rules like one-way traffic, enforcing mask policy, things that we need to encourage as a society still, just to be safe, because we're going to be doing all the things. It doesn't really put anyone out to wear a mask or to follow the flow of a particular floor. It takes a little bit of the PopCon feel out of it, that you can't just go from point A to point B without following a specific path. But, for little things like that, I think people are going to understand for this year. But we've still got a huge vendor hall and a lot of activity, and we've got 28 or more guests. I don't know. I think we're over 30 guests now, and it's going to be a lot of fun regardless. So as long as you're comfortable with being out and about, and we're still quite a ways away from it in July, get your shots and everybody's going to have a great time.
Yeah. And speaking of guests, you've carried over a lot that were supposed to come last year, which was pretty.
We tried to. Yeah. So one thing that we really, 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 really wanted an in-person event this year, because events like ours affect so many people's livelihoods, like the vendors. Some people travel and do 30 or more cons a year, and that is their annual income by going to conventions and selling their stuff. Without events like ours in person, they're really not having that, and their income went to zero, or sometimes worse when they had to lose product. But then it's also the celebrities' way of getting income, because we could go after the big blockbuster guests, but that's not really the PopCon style. That's not really what people are asking for. I mean, obviously no one would say no to a Chris Hemsworth or something, but he doesn't need a con. He doesn't need to go to a con. A lot of this talent that we bring in, they're just like the vendors, part of their annual income. They're not making money hand over fist doing movies and TV shows and voice acting. It can't be a bad income for some of them, but that's not part of their income. Is meeting fans and being able to make a living that way from what they have done that's popular. So that's kind of what our lineup is consisting of. That's what we shoot after. And yeah, we did roll over a lot. Because we promised people to meet them last year.
Right.
We didn't want to disappoint if we didn't have to, because there are a lot of people who were excited about our lineup from last year.
Yeah, definitely. And you got some different ones. I saw some of the, you have some Office, Parks and Recs people come in, and definitely a lot of voice talent, which I always think is one of the PopCon specialities is voice talent.
This is by far the best voice talent lineup we have ever had. It is insane. So Star Wars characters, Winnie the Pooh, Attack on Titan, our anime lineup is over the top. We've got better anime talent than somebody that's all they do.
That's true.
So it's pretty spectacular. And kudos to Chris for a wonderful job working with the agents to get some really good talent in.
Definitely very exciting. And I hear John Barrowman might be inexpensive right now. I don't know.
I have heard that he might not be expensive right now. He's actually been on our, and aside from his current turmoils,
Right.
which he's admitted to, so kudos to him.
And he was actually came out. He was reprimanded for that at the time of those events, and it never there weren't complaints following. But all jokes aside,
can't cancel culture, but that's okay. I'm not. I have no opinion one way or the other on that. It's all the parties involved, and I will support the legal system. How about that?
Right? Yeah.
He's been on several lists. John Barrowman would have been a potential guest, not for this year, but
yeah,
in the past he has been a potential guest. Yeah,
definitely. It was just a joke right now with all that's going on. Which, hey, if somebody was done wrong, then they deserve to be heard and stuff. No matter how you feel about a certain person, but
100%.
Going back to like the PopCon. I mean, you started a big pop culture convention. It's pretty a lot of my listeners might not know. They hear about it, but not a lot of times they get to see or hear about the genesis of PopCon. So how did it start? What drove you to be like, I'm going to do one of these?
Yeah, that would be a whole episode in and of itself. So I'll give the
short. Yes,
I was a volunteer for a itty bitty little convention called Gen Con, and thought that I had learned enough working with the management of that convention that I could start my own gaming convention. Then that stewed for years and years. A buddy of mine who was also one of the founders of PopCon, his kids went to school with someone that was part owner of comicspriceguide.com, which is the largest pricing guide in the world for comic books that happens to exist here. It's hosted, the people are here in Indianapolis. So we met over lunch, ate some pizza. They wanted to start a comic convention. We wanted to start a gaming convention. We kind of smushed the two ideas together, and now we became neither of those things, and both of those things at the same time. So that's really the quick story of how PopCon came about. Then we organized in 2012, and we were going to do our first event not until 2015. But a little outside company came in here using a trademark that they weren't allowed to use. And they announced that they were doing an event. We said, oh, well, we better be in 2014 now or we're going to get lost. So PopCon started in 2014, and we've been raring to go ever since. This is our eighth event. You mentioned Fort Wayne earlier.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was on air or off air.
Yeah, I think it was off air. Yeah, PopCon Fort Wayne, which has, I mean, this show now exists because of PopCon Fort Wayne. So
that's awesome.
That's when this show basically was in my head to start. So
that's awesome. So if you count a virtual event, this will actually be our 9th event, but it's our 8th live event, and it's our 7th inside the convention center here in Indianapolis. And we've got it pretty well down pat. I definitely bit off more than I could chew the first year. I didn't realize what I didn't know, but it still ran very smoothly. But by 2016, our 3rd event, it was pretty much just take it out of the box and put on a 3-day event. And it's very nice that we know most of the ins and outs now. And we can pretty much go anywhere and put on a PopCon. It's pretty fun. Yeah.
I mean, like I said, it's a great time. Are there any favorite couple moments in PopCon history for you that you're like, oh, you were just so proud of your convention because of this one thing that happened there?
Well, I was pretty proud by our 2nd year. 2015, and I always say it's the year that shall not be named because a lot of growing pains happened that year, and that's a polite way of saying it. But we had a set of YouTubers there, and we're one of the only conventions that brings in internet talent, specifically, actually targets internet talent. And we had a duo, but really there were 4 of them, but the duo that came in, and we ended up our main stage, which we had set up for just under 3,000 seats, I think, that year, which is huge for a convention. That's a lot of people in one room. And we ended up having standing room only, over 4,000 people, me walking around with the fire marshal and with at least 1,000 people waiting to get in.
Wow.
outside. There were kids separated from parents because the parents didn't want to take up the room inside so that the kids could get in.
Oh, geez.
All by design, and no one was ever unsafe. But we knew that was happening. We had staff, we had volunteers everywhere making sure everything was smooth. But I had to walk around, but I got to announce them. So when I was standing up on stage, looking out over this room in the Indiana Convention Center, and I was told, and this is probably still true, no one has ever had more people in that room than we did.
Jeez.
In one of the busiest convention centers in the country, and we were more than capacity in that room. And we were doing it correctly. I mean, we were very concerned. We kept 10-foot aisles everywhere. There was 10 feet to the wall so that there was exits in every direction.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone was super, super nice. People stayed in their seats instead of running up to the stage. It was just a great feel for just your second year. And It was a lot of fun. And people definitely had a lot of fun at that panel. I don't know. It's really the combination. We often get mired in the weeds of organizing an event like PopCon. It's easy to forget the other side of it, what the attendee is feeling. And when we get told that they've had the best weekend of their life, it really hits home, and we get emotional. It's like, okay, that's why we're doing it. So it's kind of, there are a lot of specific events or specific moments that were just awesome. 2020, 2017, maybe it was 2018, people were running up to me in the hallway asking for my autograph. So it's a different culture. So I guess I kind of become a celebrity for 3 days a year, and it's been a lot of fun getting on radio stations and television stations and meeting business owners from all over the city. And it's just a whole big fun experience that I wouldn't wish on anyone because of all the work, but I would be proud of them if they could pull it off, kind of thing. Yeah.
No, it's so much fun. It's a big part. And then when you go back out to like life, it's like after.
Well, yeah, the day after, I can't even barely open my eyes.
Right.
Because I'm just go, and I don't really sleep.
No, yeah. If you run into you there, you're like, sometimes you're just like staring through humans, just like, okay.
Yeah. I'm the fire putter outer, so I don't get to sit down. I don't get really to have fun during my own event, but but my whole purpose is to make sure everybody else is having a smooth, fun experience.
Gotcha. And before we wrap this up, PopCon, as a CEO, and to people who might not be from around Indiana or in the region that like conventions and stuff, what does PopCon have to offer that no other geek or pop culture convention does? Like, not to slam any of them, but what's PopCon's character?
It's the intangible part of it. I think it kind of goes back to what I was just saying. It's it's a weekend where people can come meet with their friends from all over the country, and they only see each other that weekend of PopCon. There are kids that started going when they were 7 and now they're 11, or they were 3 and now they're 11, and it's their con that they go to every year. It's really an intangible. I don't think that there's anything that we do individually that is unique from some other event in the country. It's kind of just the whole package that we put it together. We're much more activity friendly. So it's not just go into the vendor hall, get a couple celebrity autographs, a photo op, buy some things at vendor booths, and then just walk out. You can't be done with PopCon in 2 hours. We have a full-blown film festival now. So that's a 4-day event. We have the podcast awards, which, as you know, no one really does that or does it well. There are some that are picking up as we're following as podcast people, but it's not there yet. And so we were one of the first groups to really recognize podcasters.
Yep.
But throwing in the laser tag and the esports and all along with the comic books and the anime people, and it's an amalgamation of everything geek all in one place for 3 days that most events just don't do. Not all at once.
And it amazingly blends. It's not a hodgepodge. It just kind of all naturally flows.
We do not. There are other events that do a few of our genres, but they have silos or areas that it's all this and areas that's all that. we mix it all in together because we want people that if they're going there because they love horror, we want them to go, oh, that anime looks really cool. Or what's that person wearing? I want to know what they're wearing. I may want to watch that show. Or we want people to experience things outside their box.
Yeah.
Without knowing that that's what they're experiencing. It's kind of you're just kind of immersed in it in every direction.
Right. Yeah. It's a 3-day event in the in the same vicinity where you might find a vendor booth on the third day that you kind of missed. And you're like, oh, wow, where were those at?
Yeah.
What place? Like, I remember there was one year where they had this really cool these really cool posters where it'd be like, I picked up Tom Baker, Doctor Who, but it was like the theme music for it written out, the sheet music, but it had an image of him, and they did that for like everything. Like they had like Frozen, Jaws.
I remember that one.
Oh, it was like cheap little idea, but it was great, and they were really nicely printed out things. But yeah, I didn't find out about that till like Sunday.
Yeah, there's a vendor that came in that sold smells. Like they had a canister that was supposed to smell like grass. Okay. So when a dungeon master is talking about Dungeons and Dragons, you'd pass that scent around so that as they're role playing their character in Dungeons and Dragons, you could smell the environment that you're in.
That's genius.
It's genius. But it's just you have no idea what you're going to run into at PopCon.
Definitely, and as always, there will be Funko Pops. There will be.
Enrico Giamande spends 8 hours a day training to be the finest racer in all of Italy. But Enrico has a problem. He's not in Italy. He's in Bloomington, Indiana.
Papa! Ciao, Papa!
And he's not Enrico Giamande.
I should have hit him when I had the chance. He'd be dead now.
Oh, grazie, Tante Santa Maria.
He's Dave Stoller.
He was as normal as pumpkin pie, and now look at him.
But Dave's not crazy.
He's never tired. He's never miserable.
He's on the road to adulthood.
When I was young, I was tired and miserable.
You are numero uno, King Papa.
And he's decided to take a little detour at the age of 19.
What are we going to do about him?
I don't know, dear. We could always strangle him while he's asleep.
20th Century Fox presents Breaking Away, the story of 4 guys in imminent danger of turning 20.
All right!
How you doing, guys? Well, we're a little disturbed by the developments in the Middle East, but...
Who refuse to give up immaturity without a fight.
Smart move, Shorty. Ma pari tout amor.
Find new love.
We'll wind up a bum. Italian bum.
I'll tell him he either has to get a job or go to college.
Hell, I don't want to go to college, Dad. To hell with them.
What, are you afraid?
Yeah. A little bit.
The only thing I'm afraid of is wasting the rest of my life with you guys. I thought that was the whole plan. That we were going to waste the rest of our lives together.
I'm leaving soon.
Great, Dad. I wish you a nice trip.
You too.
I'm not going anywhere.
I don't know about that.
Breaking away, somewhere between growing up and settling down. It happens to all of us.
Breaking Away is directed by Peter Yates, written by Stephen Tessish, and starring Dennis Christopher, Dennis Quaid, Daniel Stern, Jackie Earl Haley, Barbara Barry, Paul Dooley, Robin Douglas, Hart Bachner, John Ashton, and featuring a cameo by PJ Souls It is about Dave and his working class friends Cyril, Moocher, and Mike spending their post-high school days in Bloomington, Indiana, sparring with snooty students from the local university, chasing girls, and, in Dave's case, dreaming of competitive bicycle racing. The four friends face opposition from all corners as they decide to make Dave's dreams come true in the university's annual bicycle endurance race. So, Carl, as I ask everybody on this show, tell us the importance of you bringing, I was going to call it Little 500, breaking away
it is
to
Little
the show.
500.
It is Little 500.
It's funny how many people that go to IU now have never even seen it. And it's kind of a rite of passage for IU students back in my day. But when I grew up, I was 6 when this movie came out.
Okay.
And we went to see it as a family, and I just loved it. So as just a kid, as just a big toddler, I just loved the movie itself. It was lighthearted, good music. I had been to Bloomington many times by the time I was 6. So I recognized some of the places, and it was really cool. And my family is an IU family, and I'm not counting my brothers that have Purdue degrees, but my mom, my dad, and I all have IU degrees. My dad rode in Little 5. My uncle won Little 5.
Oh.
Back in the late 50s, early 60s. I should know the exact date. I do not, but it was very new back then. So Little 5 is kind of in our family blood. So when I went to IU, I rode in Little 5 twice. Every time I watched Breaking Away, I was like, man, it's way harder than they're making it look like on this movie. And the David character is based on a real human being named David Blaze. And my mom worked with him. So my first year riding in Little 5, we came up here to Indianapolis at Roncalli High School. They had a cinder track, and the races all run on a cinder track. For those that haven't seen the movie, a cinder, it's just like a fire pit, but flat.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it really is cinder, like wood cinder or coal cinder. And he taught us bike exchanges. And I don't know how to explain that in words, but you're riding your bike as fast as you can. You slam on the brake, jump off of it, kind of throw it politely to the next person who's already running at a full sprint, and they jump on the bike as it's moving forward. And that is a bike exchange. And it's fast and furious and painful at times. And it's just a whole thing. But yeah, the movie Breaking Away is I guess it's kind of part of our family, even though we weren't in the movie or anything. But the whole we've all lived in Bloomington, at least for our college careers, and the bikes everywhere. And the Little 5 really is called the world's greatest college weekend, and it's for a reason.
It's a big, I don't know if it was back then, but it's like when I was in college, it was a big party thing. Like I never went, but people would go down, and it was just, I don't even know if they went and watched a race or anything.
Yeah, this year because of COVID, they actually bumped it an entire month so that there weren't going to be any students on campus. So there are no spectators allowed, but because there really isn't going to be anybody on campus, they won't have the problems with partying either.
Gotcha.
So they've kind of missed out twice now, two race years in a row, but at least they're running it this year. Last year, they didn't even run it.
Gotcha.
But yeah, there's just so much, and the movie touches so much. And then that's just the university race side of it.
Yeah.
But then there's the whole family drama and friend drama and real life coming of age type stuff.
Yeah.
Is why this movie won an Oscar. It really is it's just a good, wholesome film that it's not my usual fare, as you know. I'm a science fiction and action and thriller and pirates, but this one is not an action movie at all, except maybe the last scene, the last 20 or so minutes is action-y. But it's just about real people. Like the actors act as real people. They're written as real people. The script makes them feel like real people. And it's, as a hometown Indiana guy, it's just great seeing Indiana.
Yeah, they actually film it here. It's like not just one of those movies that takes place and they film it somewhere similar. It's 100,000. Yeah. Bloomington, surrounding areas. And as I watch, I haven't seen this in so many years. I had to watch this in high school for a class, and then I had to watch it in college in my film genres class during sports movies. We watched this one, which, yes,
easily one of the best sports movies ever made.
It's constantly, it's easily one of those. I think now, even though it was nominated, I'll talk about the Oscar stuff with it later, but it's probably one of the best, like, forgotten coming of age movies, because I think this has left our, like, talking about lexicon. But, like, I watched this, I'm like, damn, we don't talk about this movie enough in terms of being like an honest, living in a small town. What do you do after high school? Pressure from the outside. And I don't think any movie really confronts being the local in a college town very much as well. Like, it's a different experience.
Yeah, and in real life, you have to be an undergraduate IU student to run the race. But so they took liberties with that for the movie. But other than that, it's just well-designed movie from beginning to end. Mm-hmm. His father is just so dad. It's just dad. His mom's just a mom. And there's just so much small town culture that you get to see, that a lot of that hasn't changed in small town Indiana.
No. Yeah. I love each kid isn't just, here's kid, there's parents, all the parents the same. Like, each of them has a different aspect of family, where, with our David, our in character, he's got, the mom and dad. That's just more traditional. But Quaid has his brother that shows up later. We then see a side that, he's got some family stuff. Then, of course, Jackie Earle Haley is getting married at a very young age to a woman. And then Daniel Stern's got nobody. Like, that's a weird like, I think he's the guy who's going to leave town, like, at some point. Like, all his friends figure his stuff out, but at the end, when the race and everybody's got somebody to celebrate with, he's just
walking around. Yeah.
And he's overlooked because, they call him an idiot. There was a scene where he's talking about wanting to be a cartoon, where I was like, someone needs to edit this with Home Alone clips in there. Like, I want to be a living cartoon, but, like, he gets beat up. He's always drug along and just kind of dopily there and has nobody but these guys. And he's the last of them to say, we got to stay so tight together. But yeah, it was kind of sad for him. But I really, like, there's a scene when the gang's watching the football practice, and Quaid gives this phenomenal monologue about they're all going to always be in shape. They're always going to be, have future. I'm just old Mike.
Yep.
Old Mike. They're still.
He was the true athlete of the group.
Yeah.
Yeah, the ball sport athlete, I should say.
Yes. Yeah. True. But
yeah,
he's quite good. And this is early Quaid too. He was. When reviews for this film came out, like, it was considered a cast of nobodies. It's Stern's first movie.
Jackie Earle Haley was one of the only people, of the kids, that anybody recognized because he was from Bad News Bears.
Yeah.
And which is another great sports movie.
Yes. Ashton, he'd go on to a good character actor career. The brother of Randy Quaid, he was in Beverly Hills Cop and plenty of other movies. But yeah, it was an up-and-coming cast. Hart Bochner, even in here as well, he'd go on to be in, like, films like Terror Train, Die Hard, of course, Supergirl. And what I like about him, he's a complete shit, like an asshole, but he's human. Like, he's not a monster. Because when there's a scene where there's a swimming hole quarry that the guys go to, and they hate it when the college kids come because that's their territory. They can have the campus. And Hart Bochner's this antagonist throughout, just the staple of why they hate the college kids. And Randy Quaid races him in a swim race, and Hart Bochner's on the swim team. Like, he's not going to win. And Quaid bumps his head and bleeds all over and keeps going. And Bochner just looks like, this is not funny anymore. This is not, and he looks concerned. And during the race at the end, he's kind of having fun with these guys and actually supports their win with the bike race. And I'm like, okay, that's something you don't see. Like, you honestly, like, you start out going, I can't wait to see this guy get what's coming to him. And then you're like, all right, you know what? He learned a lesson here, maybe. I don't know. But usually the frat guy on campus is like public enemy number one, and something bad happens and you're like, yeah.
Yeah, he was probably the flattest character in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
but even he had a growing curve.
Yeah.
So that more kudos to the writers and director for that, because
Yeah,
it's just that swimming hole. I've actually swam there.
Oh
I
yeah,
know where that is.
they it got filled up. I read because people were dying. The owner of it filled it up. So
Completely. Wow. I haven't been there in years, but I know how to get there.
Yeah, and this is a Hoosier movie because when I was doing my research, the shooting locations are well documented all over the internet. Like, we appreciate when something's shot here because not everybody comes through here to shoot movies. So stuff like this, League of Their Own, 8 Men Out, you'll find tons of history on them and well documented stuff. But you talk about the director Yates, he did Bullet, the Steve McQueen movie with the badass car chase. So of course the bike races are going to be pretty awesome. And him and the writer, they did 3 collaborations together, 2 of them after this, Eyewitness with Sigourney Weaver and John Hurt and Ellen. And then Teshish, the writer, also wrote The World According to Garp, which is a very well done movie.
Yep.
Yates, his history was British TV with Secret Agent and The Saint, The Deep. He did that, a movie called Suspect, and a favorite movie of ours, Carl, Kroll.
I know.
I was like, oh yes.
Yeah, we could. Yeah, that's a whole nother episode.
You may be back on here to talk more Peter Yates.
Yeah, I'll have to rewatch that one. Boy, that's a movie I haven't seen in a long time. I need to see that again.
Oh,
fantastic movie.
Definitely. And then Cutters, what they call the townies here, but they were actually stoners was the actual term, but they didn't want that to get mixed with something else because they would cut the rocks at the quarry, so they're cutters.
Yep. I forgot about that little tidbit, but that's exactly right. Yep. Yeah. And now, because of the movie, there is an actual team called the Cutters every year, and they've won the race several times.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
I did so the race at the end, the final 2 laps is like amazing. Just the way he captured it. It's an overhead shot that moves around and stuff, and you watch the actual 2 laps happen. Mm-hmm. And every time, I watched it twice for this, and I've seen it a couple times before, I don't feel like Dave's going to win. Like, it's filmed that well, that suspenseful, that you're like, is he just going to, like, this time, is the movie going to change on me? Like, it's excellent. Like, it's one of the best things captured. It's up there with, like, Rocky fighting Creed at the end of the first Rocky, and it's just captivating, inspiring, just like, wow.
Well, the whole movie has been building up to that final lap.
Yeah.
Because it's David wanting to do this and racing semis down the highway, and it's crazy that the physical effort that it takes to ride a bike 50 miles on what is essentially a wet sponge with a bike that only has 1 gear and lock brakes I can't believe that I even participated in it, because I'm not necessarily a biker. I didn't do it as part of a big fraternity for fraternal brother glory or anything. We did it because the money generated from Little 500, it goes to scholarship fund for kids to go to college at IU. And I was part of a co-ed service fraternity called Alpha Phi Omega. So I convinced the fraternity that this is a service project to ride the race, which it technically was. We were helping generate money.
Yeah.
None of the 4 of us were athletes, and we were athletic, but not cyclists in any stretch of the imagination. And we didn't train anywhere near where anyone would need to train in order to be an effective racer in this race. And but I wouldn't take it back. It wouldn't take it back. It was a heck of an experience.
Just to be a part of it, folks. I'm happy to be nominated.
Yeah, for that one I was. And I looked good in spandex back then.
Of course. You can still pull it off. Come on.
Yeah, pull it off is right.
This also, I noticed a little connection to my show a few weeks back, or maybe a month back now. Talked about Valley of the Dolls, Beyond the Valley of the Dolls, and the mom here is reading Valley of the Dolls. So a little Brandon Peters show connection there, which I think, is this supposed to take place in the 60s or early 70s? Because that's when that book would have been really popular.
I'm thinking it's set as is.
Like indeterminate 70s type thing. That's what I was thinking too, but the book had me going, are they trying to notify us that when this was a bestseller, this is when this is supposed to take place? But Mom's probably behind.
They don't really establish a year, so I don't expect it to be anything other than the year that we're seeing it in.
Gotcha.
Originally.
Yeah. I do love the outside of the pizza place and the student center aesthetics. I love that, just that 70s. Yeah, there's a comfort to that late 70s, early 80s interior of a restaurant type thing.
Yeah, and that exists in the Union. That's the bowling alley is really there. I mean, that was filmed as is. Yeah.
Glass broke. That stained glass that they had in there. I mentioned earlier PJ Souls cameos. Her and Dennis Quaid were either about to be or married at the time. So she was probably around on the set. I heard they said she auditioned for the girl at the end of the movie, but he was on the set of Halloween when they were shooting that, and he was almost in Halloween, but he had scheduling conflict. Could have been this movie. Who knows? So that's why I'm guessing she's here. And I didn't remember her in this movie till I watched it for this time. I was like, "Whoa, PJ! Oh, of course, Dennis is in this."
Yeah, I looked it up. It's his first. It's really his breakout role, breaking away for him for sure.
Yeah, definitely, and
Stern for that matter.
Yeah, Stern would break out like big time. Like he had the Barry Levinson movie Diner. I don't know if you remember that one. That was another young guys in a coming of age breakout movie with Gutenberg and Mickey Rourke, and that's a Baltimore-ish movie.
It was his very first anything acting for Cyril, for Daniel Stern.
Daniel Stern in Indiana.
I don't know where he's from, because that seems like it's from Maryland. He would have been 20 years old.
You're going to Hollywood. Whoa, where's your first movie shooting at? Oh, Indiana. Oh. There's a thing that captured me. So David, our main character, is obsessed with Italian cyclists and Italian culture in the movie, and he speaks with an accent. He decides to go all in convincing a girl he's really Italian, an exchange student. When I was in college and I worked at Circuit City, and there was a guy who worked in the car stereo department named Andy. He was this totally white dude, and he spoke with a Rastafarian accent. And I was like, what in the hell? Is he messing with me? Like, what? And he's like, no, he said he's from Jamaica or something like that. And I was like, what? And I was in a fraternity, and one of my fraternity brothers, I was telling him about this guy. He goes, is his name Andy? I was like, yeah. He's like, it's my fucking roommate. He's not, no, he's full of shit. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, no, he puts on this act. He went there on vacation, and he tries to do that with everybody. But when we're at home, he don't say that. He doesn't act like that. Trust me. And I was like, okay. And so I'd call, and because we had house phones back then, I'd call it, and whenever it was like, hello? And I'll be like, yeah, is Zach there? He'd be like, no, he's not home. I'm like, okay, well, you tell him Brandon called. Oh, Brandon, hey, how's it? I'm like, you son of a bitch. And then I'd go over his house, and he'd be Rastafarian, and he'd be like, shut the fuck up. He knows you're full of shit. And he'd go back and just be normal. But then I'd go to work at Circuit City, he'd be like, hello, and like, why? What? But this really happens. This is a thing. I had it happen in my life, so I believe you, movie, that this guy would double down on all this silly shit. Roger Ebert liked this movie. He called it a wonderful, sunny, funny, goofy, intelligent movie that makes you feel about as good as any movie in a long time. It is, in fact, a treasure. Movies like this are hardly ever made at all. When they're made this well, they're precious cinematic miracles.
Agreed.
So, yeah. He was a big voice at the time for little movies like this, and this was nominated for 5 Academy Awards. It had one Best Original Screenplay, but Best Picture, Best Director, Supporting Actress, and Best Song Score. This was a stacked year at the Oscars, too. One of those years you look back, like Kramer versus Kramer took the prize for Best Picture. All That Jazz was up for it, Apocalypse Now, and Norma Ray. So, big year. The Oscars. Director lost to Robert Benton, of course, but also Fosse was up, Coppola, and Eduard Molinaro for La Cage de Fall. But the funny thing is, Bob Fosse was supposed to direct this. Throughout the 70s, this was being worked on, and he was originally attached, and things didn't work out, and he goes to make All That Jazz, which then goes up against Breaking Away at the Academy Awards.
Did not know that.
That would have been insane. Bob Fosse in Indiana shooting, breaking away would have been, because he was trying to get away from the kind of, he did a lot of like performing, like it was, he had a theater background, so a lot of his movies reflected that. And his masterpiece of All That Jazz, with like, his personal story told through Roy Scheider, was up against Breaking Away. The movie that he was supposed to get away from that kind of stuff was up against, and I believe, he lost screenplay to this movie. So
incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible. And what completely different movies these two were.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I, honestly, if they don't have Peter Yates, the biking scenes aren't as good. So the human drama probably would have been something special, but I mean, it's the racing scenes, and that end moment has to pay off. That race has to pay off, and Yates does it. Mm-hmm. Supporting actress lost to Meryl Streep. I think was Kramer vs. Kramer might have been her first one. So, and then original song lost to All That Jazz. But the only other nominee was the Muppet Movie for original song score. So I think it just means collection of songs rather than just a score.
Yeah.
It had a TV spinoff. Did you ever watch that?
I did.
With the series that brought back Jackie Earle Haley, and Barbara Barry, and John Ashton in their roles, but different cast for Dave and the dad and stuff. Took place a year before the race. 7 episodes and canceled. So I'm sure it's on YouTube somewhere to watch, just like the League of Their Own show, Ferris Bueller show, Working Girl television show. Like they do movies to TV shows a lot better now than they used to, I guess. But it's always funny, like, oh, hit Oscar movie gets TV series and it's canned after 7 episodes. But people definitely love it.
My favorite scene of the movie.
Okay.
Is when his dad is sick.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that my mom and I quote all the time. But he's a car salesman. He's a used car salesman, and a guy pushes a car that a college student is pushing. I think a Corvette or something. It's a convertible, nice car, but he's pushing it back into the lot, and his dad is on the hood trying to push it back out of the lot. And David, his son, the main character, says, "Father, we should take it back. We're good, honest people." And the next scene is his dad going, "Refund,
yes,
refund." And it's just a one-word quote, mm-hmm. but it is one of my favorite scenes of any movie I've ever seen. And it is one of my mantras with PopCon. Refund!
What else? This is where we just kind of talk about something else we may have taken in recently. We watched something, drew something, listened to something, or maybe we wrote or put something out there in the world. So, Carl, what else?
What else? So there's a lot going on in the world right now, but mm-hmm. As far as pop culture goes, really enjoying The Bad Batch so far. I'm a huge Star Wars fan, but I wasn't jumping up and down excited about The Bad Batch. Mm-hmm. But the first episode last 2 weeks ago. Oh no, it was last week, May 4th. Mm-hmm. It really hooked me. Like I was like, okay, I can really get into these guys. I mean, we'd seen the characters before,
right?
But I didn't know that they were going to be able to pull off their own series. I'm hooked. I got to know where this is going. And I hate rewatching different versions of Order 66, but we plowed right through it again. And
it's the Waynes dying of the Star Wars series.
Yeah, they were just, they're never going to get tired of finding a new Jedi to kill. I did actually, for us to watch it. Watch them die.
I did perk up because I read the Caleb Doom comics, the Kanan Jarrus comics, and that was right out of it. I was like, wait, what? We're doing this?
Yeah.
I was like, holy crap. And then they got Freddie Prinze and they pitched him down to make him sound younger, but I couldn't believe it. I'm like, wow, I guess reading the Star Wars comics back when I was paid off. They ended up overwhelming me, and I just stopped because it started out easy, and then there was like 5 a week, and I'm like, can't do that.
Yeah. But so that was fun. Jupiter.
Oh, yeah. I forgot. I know what you're talking about. I haven't started that one yet.
Jupiter Rising? Jupiter. dang, I don't know, yet another superhero show.
Mhm.
It wasn't as bad as the critics played it out to be. I definitely want to see where it's going to go. It's definitely a slower one, but man, the fighting scenes are awesome. But not as good as Invincible. So that's
Invincible is great.
That's probably the best thing that I've seen in a while.
Yeah.
It's just I did not read about or know about the cartoon, the comic before I saw the first couple of episodes. Okay. So when we get to a particular scene that I'm not going to spoil because I want people to watch it on their own terms, I was, what? Well, they're animating this? What's going on? I paused it, rewound a little bit to make sure, what did I miss leading up to this scene?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. And I was hooked again. So, and the characters are really good in that one.
Oh, and every time, so that one's on Amazon. And every time you pause it on Amazon tags all the actors and people in it. And like a janitor is played by like somebody good, like a 2-line janitor in the sides. Like, wait, what? Like, wow, how do they afford? Oh, it must have been quarantine.
Meryl Streep, the janitor.
Yes, Meryl Streep, the janitor. It must have been quarantine. Everybody just calling in. Just, I'll be on it. I'll record my
Russell Crowe is barking as the dog. What?
Right? Yeah. Yeah, like that. It's just insane. I'm like, wait, all these people? Like, okay, but yeah, that show is. I read I started so that one when I started back in the early mid 2000s when I was reading Walking Dead. That one was heavily pushed a lot too, like with it, and I read some of that. I didn't keep with it as long, but I liked it. But just as things come and go, they happen. But yeah, I've been really excited by Invincible, and I hope it keeps going.
Highly recommend Invincible. Yeah. And I don't know. It's just, it's definitely heavy superhero, but it's not, it's deeper than that one.
Yeah. There's
a whole lot more going on.
I tell people, I'm like, if you like The Boys, just go watch Invincible.
Yes. Because I don't dislike The Boys, but Invincible is doing it very right.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. The Boys, I fear The Boys is going to lose, like, I've enjoyed it, but like at some point it's going to be one of those shows that feels like pretty shocking and all this, and then you're going to numb to it, and it's just going to be like, oh, they're doing that again. Like
The Boys goes for the cringe factor, and Invincible goes for the wow factor.
Right, and it's not afraid. It doesn't pull punches at all. Like it.
Pun intended.
Ruthless.
It does not pull punches.
It is ruthless. Like it is just like, oh wow, like wow, okay.
You could draw that?
Yes. Oh gosh, yeah. Oh, definitely. So that one, yeah, it just got here and it can't come back soon enough. Invincible. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. My what else? I didn't take in, like, I was really busy last week, but I will mention, and my review is now up on Why So Blue. I reviewed the 1976 King Kong for Shout Factory, but they have a TV cut on it. So they recut. They got the original film elements from the TV, so it's not 4:3, so they have the actual film size for it, but they added that there. It's like it's close to 3.5 hours, but I watched it in segments. So I watched it in like 4 different sittings, and I think it's the most I enjoyed this movie. Like it's always been a kind of like I want to like it more movie, but as 4 different like episodic installment adventures, it worked for me for the first time. I can't tell you what was different. Something worked for me this time that didn't before.
Yeah, that is interesting. It's kind of like my experience going back to the Lord of the Rings extended version movies, because I definitely enjoyed the theatrical cuts, but it's going back and watching a 4-hour version of the first movie of the Lord of the Rings trilogy. It's like there's a whole lot that they edited out to fit it into that theater. Yeah, and I'm glad that I was able to finally see. So,
yeah, and they just breathe a little better. I don't know, like, and yeah, like I said, I can't tell you what's exactly different, but I don't know. If this is maybe some of the scenes, just the human scenes, got to get the drama out a little bit better plotting. Charles Grodin, just an interesting presence that he doesn't. Not around much anymore, and he wasn't. This is only one of the few like big genre things he did. Like he wasn't much of into genre things, but he's pretty good in his little role here. And of course, Jessica Lange's just bursts on the screen. And
so compare contrast your old Godzilla to Godzilla versus King Kong, or Kong versus Godzilla, or whichever way it goes in the new version.
So the original King Kong versus Godzilla versus the new one?
Yeah.
The old one, if you're watching the Japanese cut, it's got some good social commentary and stuff about the media and like a lot of other things, and it's pretty good, but the big dumb slap fest of the new one, I'm down with all the wacky. It was actually incorporating like a lot of the wacky stuff from the old Godzilla movies that I never imagined an American Godzilla would go for. Spaceships, a weird interior roar, like give me all that weird stuff. Go for it. The fights work for me. Every time one of those movies gets made, an American audience sees it thinking they know Godzilla and these movies, and they're like, start complaining. It's always the same complaints about the human characters and all that. I'm like, dude, they slapped each other around. Stuff got busted. They made Kong some hybrid of like 80s Mel Gibson and Bruce Willis, and that was hilarious to me. Like they actually did the shoulder popping back in from Lethal Weapon 2. Come on, that's. I mean, this is popcorn. Just I wish I could have saw it on an IMAX screen.
Yeah.
But I'm not vaccinated, ready to go to the theater yet, so it was fine. I had a lot of fun. My kids enjoyed them.
Vaccinated though, half vaccinated.
80%, right? After the first shot, it's like 80%, so almost there. But yeah, like I thought it was fun. I'm not gonna get too deep into it, but I watched it twice, so I guess that's me. So yeah.
Oh boy,
not a fan.
No, I mean it was enjoyable once. Mm-hmm. It was meant to be fun, and there's no character depth whatsoever from any of the characters.
Oh no.
The writing is terrible. The acting is mediocre because of that writing.
There's some obvious post-production changes that happen.
Oh
in it.
yeah, the
like
editing.
The first act is like
there's a lot of movie that they left on the floor that was necessary to keep in.
Yeah,
but it was an action movie. It was fun.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And I'm happy.
I don't need to see it again, but I did watch it.
I'm happy for Adam Wingard. He did a couple movies nobody saw that were great. You're Next and The Guest. Happy to see him get success in something. It's funny because now they're like, oh, we're gonna do more, but it just felt like if had things not happened, like had COVID not happened, all this would have probably been the capper for this series, and now it's continuing because of the restored success, and the reaction has been very, very positive on it. So.
In general. Yeah.
So, yeah. But yeah, Kong 76, not my favorite Kong. Still not, but enjoy it more. I have a new appreciation for it. And the interviews on that disc are terrific. My favorite thing, though, they have all the old NBC promos from when it aired. So I love old marketing things. So when you see the image galleries and you're like, who looks at those old posters and lobby cards? Or watches the TV spots and stuff? That's me. I love old marketing bullshit. I don't know. It's a nostalgia thing, I guess. So we've crossed the finish line for today, Carl. This has been a ton of fun. You had a golden pick here. I love it, and I love when people pick what you wouldn't expect them to pick to come on the show. It's great.
Yeah, It wasn't a Star Wars movie or anything. Yeah,
no, it was not genre fair at all, or sports genre. Huh?
You asked me in a way that there was no other choice. I didn't even hesitate. I was like, oh, that's breaking away.
And I like it when people pick them so quickly.
Yeah.
So great. Thank you. And before we get going, I'll let people know where they can keep up with you and all things PopCon.
Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Indie PopCon on all three. So it's easy.
Excellent.
INDY, not INDIE. INDY. City, not the style.
There you go. For sure. All right. And I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Brandon4KUHD. Written work at whysoblue.com. There's more from the Brandon Peters Show this week. But until then, always remember to keep the positivity in your online film chatter.
Thank you for listening. The Brandon Peters Show is a Creative Zombie Studios production. Produced by Brad Shoemaker and Brandon Peters. Written and edited by Brandon Peters. Announcer vocals by Jessica Alsman. Theme song by Metavari. Web design and show art by Brad Shoemaker with Brandon Peters. All music and clips featured in the episode are property of their respective studios, and no infringement is intended. Additional information on this and other episodes at BrandonPetersShow.com. For any inquiries, press opportunities, or sponsorship, contact mail at BrandonPetersShow.com. The show is available on Apple Music, Spotify, or anywhere podcasts are found.
Refund! Easy, easy, easy. Refund. Refund. Refund.